We all good?
Yep.
All right. We're going to call this regular session of the Richmond Exempted Village School District back into order here for regular session. The first item on the agenda is a recommended motion is recommended the Board of Education approve the following additions, changes, deletions to the Board of Education agenda. So the recommended change is moving 9I to item 15 on the agenda and making item 16 adjournment. So do I have a motion?
Also move.
Okay.
Second.
All right. Roll call.
All right, Mr. Fall.
Yes.
Mrs. Story.
Yes.
Mr. Wells.
Yes.
Mr. Wood.
Yes.
Mr. Zimmerman.
Yes. Okay, superintendent's report.
I know it sounds cliche, but I cannot believe we're at the last week of school. We were just having convocation just a few weeks ago, and here we are getting ready for graduation. So speaking of graduation, it's coming Friday at 6 o'clock, we hope. If you have an anti-rain dance, now would be a good time for everyone to do that. It's not just Friday. We need for good weather Wednesday and Thursday so we can use the grass to park on, because parking is a premium anyway. For those who are here or listening or online, if you don't have business in the area of the high school Friday at 6, I'd recommend you stay away. Or you'll be stuck in your travel. So we're looking forward to that. Looking forward to a wonderful ceremony by Mr. Stewart and his staff. Speaking of the high school, I want to mention this and spend just a little bit of time deliberating on this. This is a big deal. Our Locust Corner garnered a great award a month ago, the Momentum Award. Our high school a few weeks ago was named to the top high schools by U.S. News and World Report for the first time ever. This is a tremendous accomplishment by the whole staff of the high school. It's a big deal. And one of my former stops, I was fortunate to be a part of something like that. I remember how special that is. Specifically, for the first, I'm reading it, I want to make sure I get it right. New Richmond High School being recognized on the national list of top high schools by U.S. News and World Report. We're in the top 40% nationally. In the state, we're ranked 262 out of 705. And in in Cincinnati, Northern Kentucky, we're 49th out of the dozens and dozens of high schools in this area. So it's wonderful. The ranking is determined by the number of students who took at least one AP exam, who passed at least one AP exam, our graduation, and also our proficiency rates in math, reading, and science. So really, it catches all the academic indicators. I'm really proud of our high school staff, teachers, they're classified. I know it's a team effort. And Joe had the perfect response. This is our starting point. Like next year, we're just going to keep trying to get better and better because it's great for our kids. So really proud. I think it's something we need to be proud of it and trumpet throughout our community. And then the last item I want to mention, I know it's later on in the agenda, our treasurer's office received a couple of awards. I'm going to let Matt speak to the specifics, but I know Matt. I've known Matt for 5 years now. He'll divert the positives to his staff, which is great. They're wonderful. He has a great staff. We'll make sure that Matt gets his credit due. These awards they receive, not every district gets these, because if every district got them, it wouldn't be an award, right? It's fantastic. So I appreciate your leadership. I appreciate the professionalism of your office, and I really enjoy working with you.
Thank you.
So I just want to share that. And so since we didn't have the Best Webster Leading Line Award, I want to bring some positive news myself. So that's the best part of the agenda, right? Okay.
All right. There is no public participation submitted, so we'll move on to the next item, committee reports. Grant.
First one's Grant. We had a presentation, we had a meeting last Thursday night. There was a presentation from some of the students and the staff who attended the service learning trip the 30th of April through the 1st to Hazard, Kentucky. It was reporting how rewarding it was for those kids as well as the community down there. So there will probably be planning more of those. It's the second year for that to happen. So next year we'll probably do it again. 5-year forecast was presented and approved. Forecast remains in the black through the period. Forecast cash balance in 28 around $6.9 million, which is a 243 true cash days. State law requires 60 days minimum, so good news there. Approved the 24-25 school fees that were presented. Hired for the following positions. We had a head of maintenance custodian we replaced, digital media, both New Richmond and Beltate High Schools, social studies, construction tech, educational assistant, WBL coordinator, ELA teacher, curriculum director. That's all the positions that we approved at our last meeting. And then there's a lot of overnight competitions coming up, out-of-state travel that had to be approved by the board. Some of them going to Washington DC, some of them going to Houston, Texas, Seattle, Washington, and just all over the place. And then last thing is Friday evening, we had the senior completion ceremony at Beltate High School. So that's pretty much it for Grant.
Okay. Curriculum instruction.
We met May 13th with Dr. Jill. There's a great resource of books there for our first reading for science adoption. So if you're a science guru like Jonathan and I are, we spent hours after our committee meeting and read through those. So those are there for your viewing. And then also tonight is the first reading on the K-12 physical education pacing guides.
Okay.
And Dr. Chen will talk more about that this evening.
All right, Finance Committee.
All right, we met this past Friday, May 17th, and I won't take Matt's thunder, but he will be discussing the 5-year forecast this evening.
Okay, and on Policy Committee, we met on May 7th, and the 2 items we talked about were the handbooks that are on the agenda for later. Specifically, if you've been following the news in the state of Ohio, there is a cell phone policy that the governor is signing into effect, so pay attention to that part, and I'm sure Mr. Stewart will jump into that when he gets up and talks about the high school handbook. Safety Committee.
Yeah, at our last meeting of the year, last Friday, outstanding discussion. We broke down the high school, middle school, the large-scale Alice drill they did about a month or so ago, and their feedback is tremendous. It's a wonderful committee. What they said is true. Every time you go to a safety conference, you hear somebody speak that's went through a traumatic incident, they always say the reunification is the hardest part. It is the hardest part. So we saw that. We had a wonderful discussion about that. We're thinking things we can do at all of our campuses, all 4 buildings. And I think it's safe to say that this will be woven into the Safety Day professional development that we have in September, working on a true reunification. So that was the long and short of it.
Facilities Committee.
Facilities met on April the 30th. Had a couple items on the agenda we talked about. One of them was President of New Richmond Youth Sports Association was there, and they asked for permission to make some improvements out at the fields, out at Monroe, basically to honor the Dorming boys that were murdered a year ago. Also, we discussed the budget that we have for our building budget, and one of the items that came up is roof replacement. I think we'll be talking about that later. So both those items are covered on the meeting here.
And just to repeat, the reason that's in red is that was just an oversight by myself. Whenever something gets added after the weekend, I put it in red just so everybody knows that was a fresh ad. So, thank you.
Thank you. All right, acceptance of graduation candidates.
We have approximately 107 wonderful students at the high school that we anticipate walking across the field this Friday at 6 o'clock, because it's not going to rain. And I'm asking for the board to accept these candidates for graduation.
Okay. 107, right?
70.
70.
She said 107. I was like,
Okay.
lots of kids.
It's been the middle of the year.
Okay.
107.
All right, it is recommended the Board of Education approve the class of 2024 graduation candidates.
So moved.
I'll second.
So moved, Mr. Wooten had been in there for
There's a
some
Wooten on
reason.
there? Yeah.
Mr. Dufault the second.
Before you change your mind.
Any objections?
No objections.
No objections.
Get him out of there.
Okay. Any other discussion? Okay, roll call.
All right, Mrs. Story?
Yes.
Mr. Wells?
Yes.
Mr. Wood?
Yes.
Mr. Dufault?
Yes.
Mr. Zerflin?
Yes. All right, first reading of handbooks.
Yeah, it's the first reading for our handbooks. We have a singular elementary handbook, and now next year we're going to have a singular secondary main campus handbook. these are human endeavors. There's a lot of words in here. We've had a lot of eyes look at these handbooks. If you see anything, mistakes, corrections, we want to make these as perfect as we can. If there's any feedback, you can get a hold of Mr. Stewart or myself, and we'll get those in for the second time. So I don't know if Joe, Jamie, are going to do a team approach, or who's going to present?
It's mostly going to be my colleague, Dr. Coates.
Dr. Coates, yes.
I'm gonna let her go.
Wonderful.
Thanks.
But I will be here for support.
So moral support.
Moral support.
So the elementary handbook, there's not much that has changed, but I did want to highlight just a few things for you. The first one is on the front page. We added the stay safe, speak up language because we think that that's important and it needs to be accessible to parents in a easy way. So that's on page 1. Another big change that's coming is on page 7, and that's just talking about our fees for next school year. We are adding a technology fee to our students for $25, and that's going to cover just the use of technology throughout the building as part of their school day, access to all of the great things that we have going for them. And just some cleanup. We're going to do all fees due by September 1st moving forward. So that's on page 7. And then on page 11, we added language about student badges because that was new and that was something that did not previously exist in our handbook. And all of the other changes were basically just cleanup and to reduce some of the repetition that existed throughout the handbook. So not much in terms of content changing in the elementary handbook for next week.
You did a nice job.
Any questions? Come on, Joe, can you answer?
Joe
I'm the
wrote
Q&A
it.
person, right?
Yeah.
That's all for us.
Thank you, Dr. Coons.
Thank you.
And Mr. Stewart for the high school, main campus.
So the 3 changes Jamie talked about, they're also new in green on the middle high school. I won't go over those again. We have 2 kind of big ones I want to talk about here. First on page 24. It's our new exam policy. So we talked about how we can reward students who are working hard, diligent, and showing mastery throughout the year. So we changed our midterm and final exam policy. It's there in red. So to also incentivize and reward students who are working hard, we put in kind of an exemption policy for our midterm and final exams. So we'll start with the midterm policy. Any student that has an A for quarter 1 and quarter 2 and has 0 unexcused absences, they may exempt that class and that exam for their midterm. So if you're pulling A's quarter 1, quarter 2, you've showed mastery for the whole semester. That test does not give us anything more that we already know about that student. But it gives them a nice little break in the midterm to kind of skip a test. It also incentivizes students if they got an A quarter 1 to work hard to get that A for quarter 2 to get that exemption as well. However, there are some exemptions to that. So any student who's in a CCP course, that course outline is run by the university that we partner with. We can't give exemptions to those exams, so the students have to take those. And any student who is enrolled in an AP advanced placement course, they've got to take their midterm exam as well, just a little prep for their AP exam at the end of the year. If we scroll down to the final exam policy, we changed that a little bit too. So we'll start with the underclassmen again. You get an A quarter 3 and A quarter 4, 0 unexcused absences. You can exempt your final exam in any course, and there's no limit to how many exams a student can exempt if they have the double A exemption with 0 unexcused absences. Any student who's in a CCP class has to take the final exam, same as midterm. However, students who are in an AP course, if they are taking the AP exam in May, they then can be exempt from that class final exam because that's 2 huge exams back to back. We also put in the OST policy for final exams as well. Any student who's enrolled in any OST course, biology, algebra 1, geometry, ELA 2, history and government, they are automatically exempted from their final exams. That's 2 high stakes tests. We'll take in April, May, and then the end of May. The OST should be the focus for our kids. Focus on those tests in April and May, and we'll give you a nice little break for the final exam at the end. But any student that has an F in any one of those quarters, they have to take that midterm and final. So if you have an F for quarter 3 and you're in an AP class, but you're exempt, you're taking the final exam, you've still got to take that final exam. So we put this in there to give the kids a break, basically, and to incentivize students in quarters 2 and quarters 4 to kind of keep working hard to finish the semester strong and get that exemption. put that in place this year. We have a lot of kids who are exempting exams, and that's a good thing, because it's forcing kids to kind of stay the course and work hard for the entire semester. So that's the one change you put in. And this only applies to the high school next year, as middle school doesn't have final exams, so that'll be a high school only policy. The other large change is on page 32, as I've already alluded to, Ms. Zimmerman, is our cell phone change. So for the past 3 years, we have endeavored, that's a word I'll use, to teach students in the high school to use their phones responsibly. The policy we've had is it's up to the teacher. If you need it for research purposes and your laptop's not charged or you don't have it, you can get on your phone, do some research, or finish an activity on your phone if it's possible based on the activity. But because of our looking at our academic data, our discipline data, and our mental health data, it is not trending well for our students. It is becoming an addiction for a lot of kids to get off their phone during class time. So we spent a lot of time as a faculty talking about what the new cell phone policy would be. There's 2 states that have already banned them outright. Florida did it last year, Indiana's done it this year. There's 8 more states that have a bill circulating in their state house, with Ohio being one that's probably going to ban them as well. So we're just kind of trending towards everybody else is going. 77% of schools in America have some sort of non-academic cell phone policy, but it varies in how it's enforced. So we came up with this. We looked at, me and Mr. Collins looked at tons of local schools in the area and the state and how they handled their cell phone policy. Basically, in a nutshell, students are going to be allowed to use their cell phones only at lunch, which is the only non-academic time they have throughout the school day from 7:30 to 2:20. We felt they need that little brain break in the afternoon. It's not an academic time, so they can have it in the lunchroom. Otherwise, it's in their locker, either cell phone or smartphone as well, is in their locker and out of the classroom as they go through the day. We've put on kind of the progressive discipline on there as well. First offense, phone gets taken away, parent gets called, the kids get the phone back at the end of the day. Second offense, it now becomes a detention, and the parent has to come and get the phone from the school administration. Third offense, it becomes an ISS, and the parent's got to come and get the phone. We felt if the parent becomes inconvenienced, that rule gets followed a little more, because it's kind of pushed that home. I've got to leave work to get your cell phone. So we found success with this informally throughout the year, a few times that we've tried it. But we feel that this will eliminate a huge issue with a loss of instructional time with our kids. I saw a report years ago where a teacher in some other state had their students put their phones on their desk and said, turn the volumes all the way up and just let them beep, and the teacher started teaching. And they counted every time the phone dinged or beeped in a 48-minute bell with a class of 25 kids. It was over 700 times those phones made a noise or vibrated. And that's a constant distraction to our kids and to our teachers. But it is convenient for parents, I understand, to text their kids real quick, but we can reach a kid within 15 seconds of any phone call to the office, even for an emergency. So how we message this to our parents is going to be important. If this is approved by the board, we're going to start that this summer, getting out to parents. Here's the big change for cell phones. Please help us by not texting your student during the school day. So those are the 2 big ones that we're putting up for adoption for you guys, and I hope that we can see some success as we go on next year. And the rest are all the rest of the changes are small and just kind of clean up language. So any questions on the exam policy or the cell phone policy? All right.
Thank you, Mr. Stewart. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Okay. Human resource items.
The consent items, Mr. Zimmerman, we have a few people leaving our district. We certainly wish them well the next chapter of their lives for various reasons. We are most pleased to welcome, pending approval, Mr. Matt Wolforth to our administrative team. He'll be the new high school assistant principal. Very strong candidate, was also part of the associate principal interviews, and we feel really lucky to have him here. We have some also with people leaving. We have some great staff members coming in to fill in. Also some classified staff, happy to get them. Substitutes. Mr. Wolforth, he'll be doing more than the 3 days, but he's going to be attending an administrative team retreat in June. He's also going to go to a safety conference in July, which is also before his contracted year, so I've asked for just a minimum of 3 extended days for him. As what as we've done for years since I've been here, we do an all-call hire for summer school. It's a very much scaled-down version. We don't have the ESSER monies that we've used before to help make this more robust. It'll be focused mostly for third graders behind in reading, and also high school students who are behind in their credits. But we'd like to be able to, we need staff to work this, so we'd like the board to approve all certified, all classified, all bus drivers to work summer school, which takes place the full month of June. It's the time for contract recommendations. Administrator, Mr. Greason, Mr. Schenkel, Mr. Rhodes for 2 years. We got moved, exempt, classified recommendations, a long-term sub for Locust Corner. M and an O, and I know those letters are gonna change, are really all combined. We received the wrong set of names for the board meeting in April for the Student Success Plan facilitators, so we're gonna rescind that action. And then N and O, the old N and O, are gonna correct that. So the Student Success Plan coordinators are back on again. And again, it's working with Grant, we're the flow through, they are the funding source for this of $1,000. And then also with the recommendation of our mental health task force from a couple of years ago now, our buildings have done a wonderful job implementing sources of strength. Secondary has a little bit more time involvement with it. And so back in October, the board agreed that we would set aside $1,200 total for the middle school, $1,200 total for the high school, and then the staff members who helped lead this initiative would split that amount. So this will be a standing item for several months to come now. It's the Science of Reading reimbursement. And just as a refresher, this is state law. It is mandated for all public teachers in the state of Ohio to do some kind of Science of Reading training. And there's two groups. There's a group that receive a $400 stipend, and a group that receive a $1,200 stipend. And just to remind our community, we are to be reimbursed through the state of Ohio for this. So we want to be first in line with as many names as we can, and as soon as the board approves, Mr. Pritchard will submit the request for reimbursement, but that's what those names are on there for. We have some student worker who works some extra hours for us, and Mr. Zimmerman, that is the Human Resources consent agenda.
Okay, it is recommended the Board of Education approve items 9A through 9H and 9J through 9Q.
So moved.
Mr. Wells.
I'll second.
Second. Any discussion? Okay, roll call.
All right, Mr. Zimmerman?
Yes.
Mrs. Story?
Yes.
Mr. Wooten?
Yes.
Mr. Wells?
Yes.
Mr. Default?
Yes.
Treasury report.
Thank you, Mr. Zimmerman. Treasury report tonight, item A is approval of the Facilities Committee meeting minutes on April 30th. Item B is approval of the April 15th regular meeting minutes, regular Board of Education. Item C is approval of our financial reports. We do these every month. Item D is acceptance of donations. We are always appreciative of donations to the district. Item E, we have two confirming purchase orders. One is for Apogee, which is a new communication system and website we're going with in the district this year. And the second is for Will Fuel Services, which is diesel and gasoline, I believe, definitely diesel and gasoline for our bus fleet vehicles. Item F is approval of a new copier lease to replacement copiers, one at Locust Corner Elementary and two at New Richmond High School for the new school year. Those are replacing older copiers as they've hit their end of life. Item G is fiscal year 24 amended appropriations. These are a little bit of increases on the amount that needs to be appropriated for us to spend for some new grant dollars we've received from the state. Item H is a one-time accounting adjustment for an adjustment we need to make to correct some accounting. It's basically accounting here that progressed over the past few years and put more money in the bank. So this is just an adjustment to match up and line our books books with that correction. So I give the analogy would be to, if anybody in the room can remember balancing their checkbook by hand, and forgetting to add the interest that your account accrued, and put your bank account counted it, kind of something like that, you know, so we just need to line those back up. The money's in the bank, we just need to make sure the books show the same amount. Item I is the Ohio Auditor State Awards. We did win two. We were awarded 2 awards this year: Excellence in Financial Reporting from the Ohio Auditor State, and the Highest Achievement Award for Open and Transparent Government. We won 3 stars last year. We got 4 stars this year. And you're absolutely right, Mr. Miller. All credit goes to my department. They're wonderful and all stars.
I knew you were gonna say that.
And that's all I have for the treasurer's update.
All right, it is recommended the Board of Education approve items 10A through item 10I. So move, Mr. Dufault.
Second.
Second, Ms. Story. Any discussion?
Matt, can you share with us the amount of money that was, when we balanced the checkbook? You're talking about 4,000?
4,000.
And that was from Easy Pay?
From Easy Pay, the online system we had. Now, Easy Pay's been replaced. The reason it is called Pay Schools. So not only do we correct that accounting mismatch, but Pay Schools is just much more friendly, easier to use anywhere as far as math. So,
Thank you.
just to be honest, in the future, thank you, Mr. Wilson.
Anything else? Yeah, roll call.
Mr. Wooten?
Yes.
Mrs. Story?
Yes.
Mr. Default?
Yes.
Mr. Wells?
Yes.
Mr. Zerbo?
Yes. Approval of 5-year forecast.
Look, just a little bit more, Mr. Miller.
Blow it up or
Just a little bit, thank you. So twice a year, we are required to submit a 5-year forecast to the Ohio Department of Education. Our fiscal years, every school district fiscal year runs from July 1 through June 30th. So we are going to complete fiscal year 2024. So fiscal year 2025 will start as of July 1st. And I think it's important to talk about real quick the history of how we've gotten to where we are here in New Richmond. I'm gonna go back real quick. 2014, you know, we were a 2 power plant district for years, decades. Beckjord closed. I was making some quick notes. In 2019, we had some painful decisions to make in this district. We did district reconfiguration. We closed down a school, NRE. In March of 2020, we were successful. The community was approved a property tax levy and passed that. And that helped us with all the reductions, and that levy helped us rebalance the budget as of March 2020. In fall of 2020, we heard some rumblings from Zimmer, the owners of Zimmer, and some rumors that Zimmer may close. Zimmer, the owners called a meeting in that fall of 2020 and reassured us that they would stay open, and they had just invested in Zimmer, millions upon millions of dollars. In spring of 2021, Zimmer had made another announcement, invited everybody out for a press conference to let us know that they could not sell their energy on the market, and they were closing Zimmer 5 years early. So instead of closing in 2027, they were going to close in 2022. They did close in the summer in June of 2022. I think it was May or June. Zimmer provided us between $3.5 and $4 million of revenue annually. We have about a $26 to $28 million budget, significant. So when we look at the forecast and we look at 2024, the year we're ending, we're going to deficit spend about $1.5 million this year. When we look at the forecast for 2025, beginning July 1st, yes, if you would,
Yep.
we're going to deficit spend about $4.5 million as we stand today. So the math is really simple. Zimmer closings cost us $3.5 to $4 million. The 4.5 is due to a little bit more inflation on top of that. We were really in great shape as far as our budget was concerned. This is a huge revenue loss for the district. We're going to have and end up at the end of the year with $13 million of cash balance. After next year, that's going to be depleted down, as you can see, to a little over $8 million. That cash balance is our savings account, and we're gonna go through it in about 2 to 3 years at this rate. That's probably the most important line to pay attention to on the forecast. Our expenditures haven't increased that much. We did use some federal dollars from COVID the last 2 years to offset some of those costs. So you do see a rise in those, but that's just because federal dollars were spent instead of general fund dollars. But really our expenditures haven't increased. Our revenues dropped dramatically. So if you look at the revenue line on our forecast, that's really where you'll see the biggest change. Other than that, the revenues are on the top half of the forecast, expenditures are on the bottom half, and line 6.0.1.0 is the result of both of those. We are deficit spending, and we will be deficit spending throughout this forecast as we stand today. Not much change since we presented back in the fall, November.
So what bells will go off at the state when they see this 5-year forecast?
Because we have a cash balance, they won't put us in any designation yet, because we do have a cash balance we can work with. They're gonna assume that we're gonna try to right the ship and get things right. When we get more depleted with our cash balance, they'll ask us for a plan, specifically in writing, to ask us what we're gonna do, because you're not allowed to go in a negative balance and lose all your money. Any public school district, you can't run a debt as a public school district in the state of Ohio. It's a great question.
Thank you.
So Matt, is it fair to say that when we pass the levy, that the revenue we receive from the levy was offset by the Zimmer closing?
It could be, you know, we
Roughly.
had an $8 million gap back then, 2019, 2020.
Yeah.
And we reduced almost $4 million here by reconfiguration.
Right, costs, right.
We did lose a lot of employees through attrition, and then we had to do a reduction in force of employees and closing that NRE. And then the levy made up the difference between those two, just to the $8 million to bridge that gap.
Right.
So we started over fresh. In 2020, we were really in good shape, and we actually had in 2020 and 2021, we were in the black for the first 2 years. We had been in a long time.
Okay.
All right. Any other questions?
Thanks, man.
Thanks, man.
Appreciate it.
All right, it is recommended the Board of Education approve the 5-year forecast as presented.
Also moved.
Mr. Wooten?
I'll second.
Second, Mr. Defoe. Any other discussion, questions? Okay, roll call.
All right, Mr. Default,
Yes.
Mrs. Stewart,
Yes.
Mr. Wells,
Yes.
Mr. Wooten,
Yes.
Mr. Zimmerman.
Yes. All right, roof.
We recently did get roof work done at our high school, and Mr. Cox, can you just please just give us a brief summary of why we need this, and we'll present the roof bid.
Back in March, when it started, spring rain started, we discovered a leak in a high school gym roof. It's been, well, I don't want to put the cart before the horse, but it was the first time we ever seen a leak in a high school gym. So what we did is we already had a 5-year plan. High school gym wasn't on it. So I called the roofing company out, tried to find a leak. It's traveling is what it's doing. It's getting through the membrane, getting the material under the membrane wet, and then traveling before it shows, because it'll go a day or two after it rains before it leaks. So I had the roofers come out. They did some core samples. All the material underneath the roofing membrane itself, everywhere we took a core sample was wet. So it's been bad, but it hasn't reared its head until March. So with that said, everywhere they went, it's wet. I'm like, oh no, we don't want to jeopardize that gym floor. We need to get on this. It was right after one of our facility committee meetings is when it showed. So what we did is, I've got Frank with Dalton Roofing, his foreman, and then the representative for Carlisle. He puts it, carried from Carlisle, puts it out to bid, 3 bids, and then it's all been bid. It's just so fast because we want to do it over the summer months. Is why it happened so quick. But I brought them in to explain the bidding process, the warranty, any questions you might have, what they discovered, any questions you might have. we had 100,000 earmarked for high school roofing this summer, but we had to find 90,000 from other projects to get the funds if you approve this quote or this bid.
So what is the warranty?
Terry, you want to speak to the warranty?
Sure.
Come on up.
Sure.
And how you put it to bid.
You got it.
Thank you.
Good evening, all. I gotta say, first off, congratulations to the high school for that recognition. That's awesome. That was pretty cool to hear. I don't hear that enough, and I go to a ton of these meetings. So the first off, the roofing system that we're talking about. Typically, folks who have long-term assets like you all want the longest warranty that they can provide, that we can provide. So this system was developed with a 30-year warranty. That's a 30-year, no dollar limit, replacement, labor and materials for the entire time that you have it. It's the longest one that we offer. A couple of parameters in this roofing system that were critical. Luke already noted the current installation is really, really wet. That's dangerous on a lot of fronts. The weight is the least of which, but that's a big concern. The mold issue is the one that we worry about the most, so that really needs to come out of there and come out of there pretty quickly. The second big issue in that roofing system, the deck is called Tectum. If you folks have looked up in your gym roof, it kind of looks like shredded meat up at the top. That's a cementitious wood fiber board that is good structurally until it gets really wet, and then it's not so good. The other thing to consider about the Tectum decks is being able to fasten to them. There are already at least 2 roofs on that system. Every time something's fastened into those Tectum roofs, it makes them a little weaker. So the system that we designed isn't using any fasteners to attach the system. When we originally were bidding the roof, we were bidding it with an R25 insulation value, which at the time was Ohio code, but it was getting ready to move to an R30. The international building codes were adopted fully in the state of Ohio, so the R25 system that we originally prescribed is upgraded to an R30. Being a school system and being in the scenario that you folks are, it is very likely that we could approach your local building department and have them waive the R30 requirement and let you do an R25. We will be talking that, and you folks can certainly make that call as well. I have mixed feelings about this. In this part of the country, R30 is a little bit overkill from our analysis, but it's prescribed either way. That's the basic overview of the system. Finding the appropriate contractor base, I focus on folks who do schoolwork specifically. They're sensitive to the security issues that you all have, the time constraints that you have, the summers when these need to get done, not during school year, not to interrupt them. So I always make sure I bring firms in who can get the job cranked out in a short time span. I also work with contractors who have 20 years of experience minimum with our products, and folks that we can rely on and trust. They are not necessarily the cheapest roofers out there, but they are the best, and again, in a long-term asset situation, we're not taking any risks. On top of that, we will be out here for the job startup, Carlisle, the company that I represent, to ensure that all the materials that are here are appropriate, to make sure that we all understand the scope. We'll do a pre-construction meeting with Luke on site, and then during the course of the installation, we'll be out with our team to do interim inspections to make sure that everything is being executed correctly. And at the end of the process, we bring out a Carlisle technician who will do a final warranty inspection. They'll develop a punch list of any items that may have been missed, and then off we go to the races. We sign off, and you have your roof and you have your warranty. The roof warranty is actually for 30 years and 6 months. There's an actual little 6-month grace period in there to make sure we can get our ducks in a row if there's any restoration work that we need. And at that point in time, we can actually do a recover system as long as codes haven't changed, which will allow just a membrane to be applied over the existing system that you have.
which will be inexpensive and currently would be warrantable for another 20 years on top of that. So hopefully most of the folks in here won't have to think about that roof for a really long time. So that's a quick overview of it. I'm happy to answer any questions that y'all might have about it.
Do we need to run it by the insurance company too? Do they review these projects? Okay. Just check for me, because.
I spent 3 hours today with Factory Mutual Global.
Okay.
I'm glad that we don't have to talk to more insurance
Okay.
people.
Okay, all right. Okay.
Other questions?
No other questions?
What's the timeline? Install how long?
This install, I believe we've got, was it 62 days that we put in?
Realistically, with your schedule, with the summer months and how critical your schedule is, we're looking 4 to 6 weeks.
Yeah, I can't remember exactly what I had come up with, but I had 62 working days max to do it. Rain days, things like that, are considerations. I think one of the things I didn't mention earlier that was critical, we also want to make sure that the material that comes off that room is handled correctly and disposed of legally. All 3 firms that I vetted through this process know those protocol and pay attention to those kinds of things too. That's kind of what we do as well.
Will there be any covering on the gym floor itself while the work's being done?
That is not specified.
Does need to be?
And if it were a different shaped roof and if the drains were located differently, we would definitely consider doing that. I can guarantee you the last thing any of these contractors want to do is replace the gym floor. We've all done it. It's no way. We do not like that at all. So great care will be taken with the night tie-ins. That's one of the things we review in the pre-bid, the pre-construction meeting. How are you going to affect the night tie-in details? We can't tear the whole thing off and put it on in a day. So there's some tie-ins that have to be reconciled. So we'll be reviewing all that too. That's good weather.
It is recommended that you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I have a quick point, Mr. Zimmerman.
Sure.
The funding for something like this, a project like this, comes out of permanent improvement. It doesn't come out of the same general fund that impacts operations or instruction recruitment. So.
Good.
Go ahead.
All right. It is recommended the Board of Education approve the bid and award the contract for roofing as presented.
So moved.
Mr. Wells,
I'll second.
second, Mr. Dufault. Any other discussion? All right, roll call.
All right, Mrs. Story?
Yes.
Mr. Wells?
Yes.
Mr. Zimmerman?
Yes.
Mr. Dufault?
Yes.
Mr. Woods?
Yes.
Academic report.
Good evening. I'm excited to share with you the work that we have been doing all year in both science and physical education. We have been working with an elementary science committee and a secondary science committee. As we began our work this year, I'm going to start with science, obviously. We talked a lot about what our revision, the purpose of our revision and what it was for. It's an opportunity to reflect on our practice, how we teach science, how we've been teaching science, what we want to do, a chance to challenge our ideas, and it's a time to reconsider and adjust in the light of new ideas and further evidence, similar to what we undertook with our revision in ELA 2 years ago and then last year with math. We had some strong goals for science in New Richmond. Science is a very strong content area in our district as it is, and we want to continue to make it even stronger. Our goals were to provide a strong science curriculum for K-12. We wanted to choose the best programs to recommend for grades 3 to 5, for 6, 8, and textbooks for 9, 12. Choose our best textbooks for our multiple high school courses, and develop a guaranteed curriculum that aligns with state standards. We looked at some critical components for science instruction in our district. We want our texts and activities to be meaningful, real world, and relevant. Our resources should be aligned with the science standards. Science phenomena and problem solving should drive the learning. The program should have elements of life science, physical science, and earth and space science. Discourse and collaboration are critical for us for student learning, and the students need to be asked challenging, open-ended questions and give evidence for their thinking. Both committees reviewed multiple programs after we looked at our standards and our current practices. All of the programs that we decided to investigate were highly rated in alignment, rigor, and usability. And we scheduled presentations for both the elementary and the secondary grade bands by various publishers. When we reviewed these programs, we rated them on the use of hands-on learning opportunities, what these programs involved in terms of kits and materials. Were they phenomena-driven? What were the quality of the assessments? If they had a valuable online component, if they came with consumable student workbooks, and if the programs were engaging and fun. So I'd like to start with our elementary grades 3-5 recommendation. We would like to recommend the district adopt the program Ohio Interactive Science, published by Savas Learning Company. These are some of the components in Ohio Interactive Science. The students have explored big questions. It includes a lot of literacy and math skills, teaches students about science careers. It's a big component of this program. It has meaningful assessments, includes leveled readers for differentiated learning. The students do have a write-in student edition that comes every year new for the life of the adoption. It is aligned with Ohio State standards and also includes what Savas calls Elevate. That's their program where the content is aligned with the NGSS standards. That stands for Next Generation Science Standards, which most of the states in the country follow NGSS. Ohio, Florida, North Carolina, Pennsylvania, Texas, and Virginia have their own state standards. However, there are a lot of activities that are real-world STEM related that teachers could use from the NGSS standards. This program has that for free as part of this adoption. So if Ohio, which we think may adopt the NGSS standards in the next couple of years, if they do, those lessons are already included in this program. If they don't, we can use the ones we want to supplement the Ohio standards that is taught in Ohio Interactive Science. This program includes lab kits for engaging hands-on experiences, and it makes it simple for teachers in 3rd, 4th, and 5th grade to get those materials. They're already prepared by lesson. They match the student workbooks, and the teachers can use those interactive lessons and then put them away and saved. It has online resources that include videos, e-texts, and virtual labs. It's a very strong, robust elementary program, and where our teachers at the elementary level were very, very supportive and excited about the idea of recommending the Ohio Interactive Science program. We'd also like to recommend secondarily our secondary 6-8 recommendation is Amplify Science, published by Amplify. In Amplify Science, the lessons are based on a unique phenomena-based approach. So I'm going to explain this a little bit. It's very different from the other publishers that the middle school looked at. So in each unit in Amplify Science, the students are asked to inhabit or take on the role of either a scientist or an engineer, and then they investigate a real-world problem, and then they do a lot of research, and the learning that happens in the classroom gets them to be able to understand what's going on and solve that problem. For example, there's a unit on metabolism. The students take on the role of medical interns that are working in a hospital, and they diagnose a young patient named Elisa, who comes in. She's tired all of the time, has a different list of symptoms, and through their learning about the endocrine system, the students discover that Elisa is diabetic and how medical science can treat that and why that's happening to her body. This publisher in their program also includes lab kits, also very simple for teachers to use. Online resources, they also have a student write-in edition, includes meaningful assessments, and there's a focus on science vocabulary that's appropriate for middle school. Middle school teachers also feel like their students, the 5th grade students coming to them for 6th grade will have a strong base from the Savas Interactive Science program and be ready to take on those kind of real-world, rigorous, hands-on kind of approach for middle school that will just increase their science understanding. This next page is a list of all of the different texts that we would like to recommend for the high school based on course. CP Chemistry, AP Physics, which is a new course being offered at the high school next year, Geology, Anatomy and Physiology, CCP Biology, and Environmental Science. There's the name of the book and who it's published by. I have samples of all of those books that I'll leave in the office if anyone wants to come and review them. And then we also have samples of a unit from from the interactive program for grades 3, 4, and 5 with Savvis, and samples of a unit from 6th, 7th, and 8th with Amplify that are also available to be reviewed. Are there any
And both the
questions?
student and the instructor.
Correct. We have the student and the instructor book. Those are my recommendations for science, and I want to thank our teams. Teachers have put in a lot of work. The elementary committee is a little smaller. Every science teacher at the middle school and high school were involved in the discussions. Elementary, everyone teaches science in elementary K2, and then lots of teachers in 3, 4, and 5. But our teachers on the committee did so much work taking all of the samples back, sharing and discussing with the teachers in the elementary schools. Okay, next I'd like to just introduce for first reading, our physical education pacing guides. They were also in revision this year, and I want to thank Mr. Miner, Mr. Pitzer, Mrs. Flam, Mr. Jackson, Mr. Bagley. They have worked very hard all year to refine their curriculum, to write new pacing guides, to make sure they're organized and easily understood. And I would like to present for first reading the pacing guides for K2 physical education, 3 through 5 physical education, 6th grade, 7th grade PE, and then an 8th grade strength and conditioning course, as well as high school PE and high school strength and conditioning. Each of those have a separate pacing guide. And if you have any questions, I will ask Mr. Jackson or Mr. Miner to tell me.
What do you need? They were making fun of me.
It was really a pleasure to work with all of these committees. I continue to be very impressed and grateful to be working with the teachers in New Hampshire.
Speaking of impressed and grateful, as long as we're complimenting, if you've been following us the past some years, it seems like we've been doing a lot of curriculum instruction assessment. It's because we've been doing a lot of curriculum instruction assessment. 2 years ago, language arts revamp, boom, out the door. Last year, math, out the door. This year, science, pending approval, out. It's fantastic. Districts who have full curriculum departments would not do this. So I guess one of Jill's like worth 5 other people, right? So we got one Jill. This is good.
One of Jill with a lot of excellent teachers.
Right. It's a team. I get it, but we appreciate your leadership. Thank you.
Social studies is next year, right?
Correct.
Most important. Most important.
I'm more scared about that one.
That's right. Yeah, that's me, your baby.
All right, thank you everybody for all the work there.
How long have you been around? Come on. Sorry,
too long, right?
Too long.
So we have about one more week, give or take, of athletics here before school ends, and hopefully another week after that. I am here to provide a spring sports update. Bear with me, the font on this is extremely small because there's a lot going on. Over your head, you can see pictures from this past Saturday's softball game. The softball team was up in Miamisburg. They unfortunately had a heartbreaker in the district final. They were trailing 4-0 late, came back, scored 5 straight runs once they made some adjustments at the plate. Couldn't hold the lead in the top of the 7th. They ended the season 22-4 overall, 9-1 in the league. Co-champs of the SBAC American Division, sectional champions, and district runners-up. The seniors, which will be in the end here, there'll be a picture of 6 of them, have won 82 games in their 4 seasons. And this was their 3rd district championship appearance out of the last 4. Individually, we had 4 first-team All-League performers. Junior Piper Willis was named the Co-Player of the Year. Trish Payne was named the Coach of the Year. Junior Ray Hardigan on second-team honors. Leigh Somerville was a second-team honor. Madison Steelman was honorable mention. There was a whole host of players that contributed to this team, and there they are in front of the dugout after the game. It was an amazing game. It was a wonderful season for them. We're sorry to see it end. There is one team, whole team, that is still going the baseball team, and there'll be some pictures coming up here from their game against Western Brown earlier in the season. There they are. The baseball team is the only American Division team left in the tournament because they took out Batavia on Thursday of last week, 7-6. Batavia is a top 20 team in the state. At least they were until last Thursday. Tomorrow, the Lions play Indian Hill at Indian Hill. Indian Hill is 26th in the state, according to Max Preps. They're receiving votes in the coaches poll. They are 20-6 overall. It's a road game at Indian Hill. It is the district semifinal. 2 first-team all-league performers for the baseball team. Lex Houndshell's hitting .288. He's got a 1.21 ERA on the mound. Carson Coleman has 5 wins, 81 strikeouts. He's top 20 in the state in strikeouts. A .71 ERA, top 40 in the state. So if you have time, come out tomorrow at 5 o'clock at Indian Hill. Good luck. Unfortunately, the weather didn't cooperate for me to get pictures of the last 3. The track and field photos that I have turned out pretty damp. But before we get to track and field, boys tennis, there were 3 first-team all-league performers: Brock Linder, Jake Smith, Tyler Bartley. Jake and Tyler won the doubles turnover, second doubles in the SBAC, so as well. At the track and field level, I don't know if you may have heard this or not, but we have a bit of a big story here. Grant Harrison broke the state pole vault record at the districts here in New Richmond last week. He's at 16 feet, 8 1/4 inches as a junior. He will obviously compete at regionals. He also is going to compete in the 100-meter dash because he won that in 11 seconds, and the 200-meter dash. He took 4th in that in 22 seconds. We have another pole vaulter, Noah Graham. He will be at the pole vault in regionals because he took 3rd in the districts at 12 feet 6 inches. 2 high jumpers will compete at regionals this week. Caleb Creech finished 4th. Ryan Keith won it. He cleared 6 feet 2 inches. And then Ben Nikolov will run in the 800-meter. He finished 3rd. Those are just the boys. On the girls' side, Shelby Henry finished 2nd in the 100-meter hurdles. We had 2 relay teams make it to the regional meet. Henry, Savannah Diatley, Audrey Nikolov, and Samantha Ringhand, we'll be hearing more from her here in a second. They finished 4th in the 4x100. Sierra Abney, Riley Davis, Izzy Dufau, and Elizabeth Hauserman made it in the 4x800 relay. They took 2nd. Ringhand will be back in the long jump. She finished 3rd. She also will make it in the pole vault because she finished 2nd. Davis is running in the 3,200-meter run. She took 2nd. And in the 1,600-meter because she won it. And then Sierra Abney is 4th in the 3,200-meter run. All of those kids will be competing in the regional meet at Piqua, which is tomorrow and Saturday if they make the finals. So if you have the chance, get out and support the kids. Thank you.
Awesome.
Thank you, Mr. Shea.
All right, next item on the agenda is item 15, which is
certified contract recommendations. Which is a former on the agenda 9I, right?
Correct.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, good. I'll make a motion. So it is recommended the Board of Education approve the following certified contract recommendations.
So moved.
Ms. Story?
I'll second.
Second, Mr. Wells. Any discussion? Okay, roll call.
Mr. Wooten?
Yes.
Mr. Wells?
Yes.
Mr. Zimmerman?
Yes.
Mrs. Story?
Yes.
Mr. Default?
No.
Okay. Anybody want to put forth a motion for adjournment?
Mr. Wood.
So moved.
I'll second. Second, Mr. Default. Roll call.
All right. Mr. Default?
Yes.
Mrs. Story?
Yes.
Mr. Wells?
Yes.
Mr. Wooten?
Yes.
Mr. Zimmerman?
Yes.
Thanks, everybody.